Hey, this is Billy Childs from Brittany Fox, and you're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 8, Episode 13. I am here with my co-host, the heavy metal Pied Piper of Philadelphia, Chris Natalini.
They will follow.
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, how are you, sir? The Pied Piper.
What's up, Mick? I am doing well, my brother. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. Love it.
What's going on with you, brother? What's happening on your end of the world?
You know, man, this whole season, I'm still kind of in that area where plates are spinning, some are wobbling. I'm still in it. I'm still moving forward. I got to actually see, I know this is going to be a little behind when people hear this, but I just went and saw over the weekend, I just got to see Tesla again. And let me tell you something, man. These guys sold out. Probably had to be, 2,000 people, maybe 3,000. Sold out. Every seat was filled. No backing tracks. Just 5 guys. Just rock and roll. Doing what they do. Still sound good. They're still releasing new music. Whether people listen to it or buy it or hear it. They stick to their own path, man. And they're just so good, man. It's such a great group of musicians who are older dudes and they're still doing it, and let me tell you, they're killing it, man. Like I said, no backing tracks, no nothing, just playing straight up, plug in, rock and roll, having a great time, living off the 40 years they've been together, and just awesome, man. Just an hour and a half of straight music. Listen, I'm gonna be honest, they're not headbanging or throwing their guitars around. They have a lot of slower songs, and they're even their heavier rock and roll songs aren't crazy. Just a solid band. There's nothing more than I love to see as a solid rock band. It's so
refreshing.
It just breathes. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So refreshing. It just breathes new life into me. The whole time, and I'm not a huge Tesla fan. My wife is a bigger Tesla fan than I am, but the entire time I'm watching them, I just felt this intensity in my bones and just this joy of watching these dudes just do what they do the best they can do it, having a good time doing it, playing these songs and really playing. No tracks. No, I know I keep saying that, but it was super important to me that that these guys weren't playing the tracks. Now, they had an opening band, which unfortunately I can't think of what they were called off the top of my head. They're from Florida. They're on tour with them. They're doing all the dates. They weren't bad. Fastest Land Animals, I think they were called. A good band. Great songs, great groove. The singer sang to a backing track, and it was just in the bigger spots, like the choruses and some of the bridges, because he had a kind of higher register voice, and it sounded like the bass player had a really nice voice too, so they complement each other. But he at times sang to a backing track, and do I think people cared? No. Do I think people even noticed? Probably not. I did, because we were pretty close. So I hear all these voices and I go, oh, who else is singing on this stage? And there was only 4 guys, but they were great, man. But like I said, backing track, I was like, oh. The singer was a good enough singer. He didn't need it, but I understand why he was doing it. I get it. But I'm like, you don't need it, man. You're such a great singer, but it's where we at in these day and age. And then Tesla comes out and they didn't have anything. It's just and that guy, he didn't have the greatest voice anyway. So you could tell he's not using a backing track. Yeah. I mean, his voice is kind of okay, but just so, like you said, thank you. So refreshing and just so cool to see a good rock show, man. It was a great vibe, and people were excited. And it's such a cool thing because we don't get to see that anymore in 2026. There's not a lot of those happening anymore. So it was very cool. It was very cool.
Yeah, they're a
So that's
solid
it, man.
band. Always been a solid band. I've
Always
seen them a
were.
number of times over the years. You know, the funny thing is they were lumped in with the heavy metal hair bands, but they were never a heavy metal band, really. They were
No,
a
they weren't.
solid rock and roll, hard rock type of band.
Yes.
And
yes.
I remember when they hit the scene, I was like, even then, it was like a refreshing type of sound. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know, they were never glammed up. They were kind of stripped down, but it was just hard and heavy, man. And that dual guitars, and man, it was just... Frank Hammond is just an amazing player, songwriter, arranger.
Player,
man. I mean, they did a lot of acoustic stuff, too. Did they get to do...
They brought out acoustic guitars. They were doing, I think, I forget what song they were doing, but the hired guy that's been with them a number of years, guitar player, like, he was playing acoustic, and I guess it wasn't coming through, like they were having technical difficulties. He looked at his roadie and just was like, just waved it off. He's like, don't even worry about it. Like, just take it off the stage.
Right,
It's
right.
fine. I'll play, I'll just play it normal. And yeah, like, they did. I think they did like 2 like sit down acoustic songs, and Signs they obviously did, but they played, they didn't play an acoustic.
The intro to Little Susie and all that probably was...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones that really kicked off the whole MTV Unplugged thing. I mean, when they did their, because I seen them the nights that they were at the Troc in Philly, with the recorded signs and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
Me
that
too.
place was packed. Oh, my God. It was
packed, bro.
Unbelievable. Packed. But yeah, solid band. Yeah.
Solid band.
So that's
great. We were milling around where the merch was, and we were just kind of hanging out, and stopped at the bar to get something to drink, and we were standing at the bar, and then a gentleman came over that worked the arena, or the event center rather, and he came over. He was like, excuse me, like, we're not letting people kind of hang at the bar. We're asking for people to get their drinks, kind of walk away, because we're sold out. And I was like, oh, look at Tesla selling out.
Wow.
This
You didn't tell him who you were?
No.
The Pied Piper of Philadelphia?
No, he don't care. He just wants everybody to get the hell out of the way so people can spend their money at the bar. But I was like, wow, that's really cool. Sold out. Like, I was kind of happy about that. Because in this, we need that kind of stuff, in 2026. Like, we need those sold out rock shows. And even though it's an older band.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, though, right? It's still the older bands that are... The newer bands aren't drawing the same way. And the up-and-comings, or those that are still in the trenches, just aren't pulling numbers. So... we're still locked into that top tier. Like, what happens when that top tier disappears? Not that I'm saying, hey, I want it to disappear. But, I mean, there's going to be a time, right? Like, Aerosmith is now done, right?
Yeah.
Kiss supposedly is done, but they're not done. They're in, they're out. By the time this airs, now they're getting the Songwriters Hall of Fame now. I mean, like, and then the following week it'll be the, Fashion Hall of Fame or whatever. I mean, like, they're just not going away, right? So, I mean, somebody's going to give them money so they can buy back the rights to the makeup or something. I'm just not exactly sure what's happening here. I mean, what happens then? Like, where's that leaving people? Because there's nobody... Somebody will say, well, you're wrong, Mick. People are moving up. Okay. Are they moving up because they're manufactured? Right? Are they producer manufactured? Are they manufactured type of things? Are those the bands that are moving up because such and such singer's father's the producer to this or in this band, so they're being pushed up the ranks? I mean, think about it, and this is no offense, but, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons' sons, they released an album. It's not like their parents, but at the same time, it's quality stuff. But would it get the same push? Evan was on tour with Kiss. They were the opening band for the last number of shows, right? And they pop up here and there. Fantastic, right? I would do the same thing for my children. But is their rise to fame the same way as a band that spent like 3-4 years in the trenches? Shuffled around the country and played in front of nobody and, honed their chops that way. I'm not taking it away. These are quality people, but you've had the best of the best your whole life. There should be something there. Well, I did it on my own. You're absolutely right, because there are plenty of children of celebrity stars, rock stars, whatever, who have a career or had a career and weren't actually that good. Right? It doesn't necessarily ensure that you're going to be the best, but I mean, it's like listening to Wolfgang, Amadeus there saying that, he had to start from the bottom. No, you didn't. My bottom and your bottom are way different. Mayan's dark and gloomy, and people are throwing things at me, and I probably stepped in vomit, but I'm not sure because it's dark and gloomy. Your bottom is, I don't know, your parents, sent you to your room that was the size of 3 houses, and you got to play your guitar for the next 4 months. Like, it's not the same thing. Me starting at the bottom is playing at a bar called Bart's.
Yeah.
Your bottom is you get to play the Palladium, okay? So I'm not exactly sure it's the same thing, buddy boy.
Listen, here, this is nothing against him, but this is Wolfgang Bottom, right? His first tour when he was a kid was with Tremonti, right? Mark Tremonti from Creed. He had his solo band because I saw him in Westchester. It was a cool little spot.
He was slumming.
It wasn't like something. And then his next tour was the Van Halen
tour. Yeah.
So
I'm going to be a rebel, Dad. I'm going to be a rebel, and I'm going to play these little clubs. Eddie's probably saying, "No, you don't have to do that. I could set you." No, Dad. I'm going to do it on my own, Dad. Then get rid of your name, buddy. Get rid of the guy's talented as stuff.
Of course he is.
Fantastic. I'm not saying any of that. Can't stand listening to him talk. It's like, dude, you got to come back down to reality. And where's your picture on tour eating at McDonald's? Ain't happening, bud. Okay,
it's true.
So
it is true, bro. You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
But I'm not saying anything about the quality of what he does. The guy's fantastic.
No.
Yeah, he runs circles around everybody. I mean, it's phenomenal what he's capable of doing. But I think the reality of some of this stuff that these people have in their head, it's not the same as everybody else. I mean,
it's not. It's not. Like you said, his starting from the bottom and you and I starting from the bottom are two different. Listen, I don't know what his first show was. I can guarantee it wasn't at this place called the Music Factory in the parking lot in Norristown. Like,
yeah, and listen, I know what you're talking about because I played there too. I did that one festival. We were so loud at the time that cops from the town over, Bridgeport, were called and they had to shut us down. That's how loud we were. So I know that place very well. Yes. Yeah. I'm outside in a parking lot in the heat of July. You can't tell me, Wolf. On a cement slab. It wasn't even a stage. It was a docking bay, right? It was a docking port, right? Yes. You can't tell me that was your first, you're slumming it, bro. I get it. Like, it's cool. You can't compare what I did to what you did. So the idea is what happens when some of these top tiers go? Is it guys like, and I'm being honest, is it guys like Wolfgang Van Halen or Stanley and Simmons' sons? Are they the ones? Is that what we're looking at? Just a number of months ago, last year, everybody's talking about Youngblood, but now there's all this Youngblood backlash. Yeah. Right? And I don't understand it. What happened? Like, where did it go from one thing? This guy was soaring, working with all these people, and now it's the whole. Now listen again. His nosedive and my nosedive are two different nosedives, but it's happening. So what's going on? Everybody was talking about he's the next thing. He's what rock and metal and just everything is, and now it's not. So that's what I'm saying. There's no consistency. And there doesn't seem to be a tier that people can consistently move up like it used to be. Think about it. Like rock bands in the 70s and 80s, they all started out as, once they got picked up from being wherever they were put on as support, and then they moved up as support to a bigger tour, and so on and so forth, till they started drawing a certain amount of attention, numbers, or hits that they were put on as headliners. And then that whole cycle started again. I mean, listen, not to keep bringing back the Kiss, but think about how many bands opened for Kiss that later on went to bigger and better things. I mean, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, so on, Van Halen, just keep going. Keep going. Throughout the 70s, throughout the 80s, Kiss was like one of those bands that just kind of brought everybody up at one point or another. Yeah. I mean, Ozzy did the same thing. Well, let me ask you this, Mick, since we're talking about that. So looking at it, looking about Youngblood and Wolfgang and Simmons and Stanley, and do you think that some of their downfall, and I don't want to say Simmons and Stanley's, those kids aren't having a downfall, but they're scuttlebutt on the internet. Do you think it's because all this stuff is, one, we as a culture don't like to see people succeed, and number two,
because our lives are run by social media and it hurts people's career. To them sing cover songs, the two of them together. Then they put this song out, which I love. And now the big argument is, why is, I think Simmons is first, right? Why is his name first? Like, really? That's what we're talking about? And now it's this huge thing that these poor kids, Evan's got to come out and say, this is why we did it. Like, why are you even addressing it? Don't worry about it. Same thing with Young Blood. Like, now they're digging up all this stuff. You know, Wolfgang gets all this backlash of why he isn't playing Van Halen stuff. And do you think it has something to do with because we are run by social media and there's so much garbage printed in whether it be X or Facebook, Instagram, like it's just a constant barrage of negativity, and that stuff just grows and grows, and then it takes somebody's career right off the railroad tracks.
Absolutely. I think that plays a major role now more than ever, and people are aware of that. Like the PR machine is aware of that because that's where people conversate. That's where people statistically, and I can't remember what the numbers are, but people get a lot of their news nowadays from social media, whether it's been copied and pasted or a lot of it's misconstrued, and a lot of it becomes, there's a level of bias that is attached to it, and most people don't get the difference. And I also think that there's, say with Wolfgang for not wanting to play Van Halen stuff, is maybe he's honoring his father, maybe, but at the same time, as an artist, as a person, he doesn't want to be in that shadow. No matter what he does, he's not going to be able to surmount it as Van Halen. His only hope is to keep pushing forward with his own material and shine that way. And I understand that. But I think that in this, again, I go back to what I said earlier, he needs to curtail what he says and how he says it so that he's not kind of separating his audience, ostracizing some of the other musicians, or he needs to embrace the fact that he's Eddie Van Halen's son and that he had opportunity that the average musician, even some people in the industry, would never have. It's just as simple as that. And to dismiss that or come up with excuses otherwise just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The Simmons Stanley thing, even before that was even brought up, I go, oh, they must have did the alphabetical thing. That's the right way to do it. Right? I'm not sure what they said, but like, it doesn't really make a difference.
Read the article,
like, sometimes you go, it's a matter of what sounds better, what rolls off the tongue. Simmons Stanley, Stanley Simmons. Simmons Stanley, Stanley Simmons. I don't know. You make the decision. It sounds like they picked the right thing. Who knows? And it must not be that big of an ego deal. I don't know. Maybe Simmons put up most of the money. Who knows?
Or maybe they're just friends and they go, we don't care. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter.
Right. And that's what social media has done. Talking about things that really have no bearing on, oh, I'm not listening to them because, you know, his name's not first. Well, okay, let's put it this way. Let's put it in a bigger context. You know who the bigger star is between the two of them? Simmons. Because he was on TV. He's done comics. He's been involved in a lot of things. The other guy, he was, you know, we knew who he was, but you know what I'm saying. Then all of a sudden, he's emerging as today's rock star.
Right.
We're spending time on things that have no bearing on the music or on the artist's career, but it derails it quickly. Case in point, like when the Han Solo movie came out, I liked the movie, personally.
I did too.
I liked the guy that played him. I liked the actor. I liked the way he delivered it. Is it Harrison Ford? Absolutely not. I mean, come on. Like, you know, what I think that they should, and I'll get to my point, but what I think they should have done was they should have put Harrison Ford in the very beginning as an old Han Solo, telling a story that then faded into the guy, and then you know what? No one would have said a word. I said it from the very beginning. Beginning.
Yeah.
And Disney, I'll give you my email and address. You could send that check anytime you'd like. But there was such a social media outpour of hating that movie that they pulled the plug. Disney got super gun-shy, pulled the plug of the sequel. And I think it was silly to do so.
I agree.
That's just my opinion, but what do I know? But yes, I think we spend too much time worrying about things that aren't that important. As of the recording of this show, Youngblood is trying to distance himself from a photograph from the guy that he was with, in
Rammstein.
Rammstein. Listen, I don't know what he did or what he didn't do, but he was found not guilty, and none of it made sense, and it didn't have any real evidence. But he was with Ozzy, who had a bit of a sketchy past, Steven Tyler, who we know had a bit of a sketchy past, and so on and so forth. That's not an issue, but this is an issue. And then social media makes it an even bigger issue.
Yeah, that Youngblood has to come out and address it.
It's such an issue that it becomes another issue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then all it does is it detracts the artist from making music, what an artist is supposed to do, because now you're so uptight about this and that and the other thing. What are they going to say? What they're not going to say?
Right. You're so afraid. Every step you take, everything you do, it's going to be looked at.
Again, we're not in that position. I get it. I'm not oblivious to that fact. There is something about being an independent indie artist that you don't necessarily care as much.
Right.
But you're also, because of that, you're not always in those situations. What you do with your music is what you do with your music. That being said, for any of us, regardless of our level that we're on or where we're at or who we are, we do need to be aware some level of what is being put out there about us. There's only and we talked about this early in this show, not this show, but over the time of this show, that there's only so much we can do. Of course, you want to keep whatever's coming out of your house as clean and correct as possible, but there's always going to be something, and of course, the more popular you get, there's going to be stuff out there that you may not be able to control.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
Johnny D from Britney Fox.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
But how about you? How are things with you?
Good. I mean, I'm staying busy. The new year, trying to keep my irons in the fire.
That's it.
Like I talked about last year, I got the same destination in mind, but I'm making some stops on the way. I'm taking some different routes and covering some different ground and not worrying about some things that I really have no control of. You know,
right.
I can only do so much, and stressing about it or worrying about it or the diminishing returns of something, like no matter how much you work at it, it may never get better. So take that energy, put it someplace else for the things that you can control, and that's the best that I'm doing. Am I seeing bright spots? Yeah, a little. If you're in a black room and you had a pin and you just popped a hole, it's really small, but there is some light. And I got a couple of them going on. So things are looking good. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'll put enough of them in there, it'll look like a starry night, or I'll have a big gaping hole, and then I'm free. So we'll see how it goes. Keep tuning in to find out. Listen, I wanted to ask you, are you feeling that artists are being gouged these days? Like by venues, by bookers, by promoters. Are you experiencing that? Are you seeing what I'm seeing or what I think I'm seeing? Depends on my medication what I'm seeing, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. I think it's on a bigger level, even just going, like I mentioned, I went to see Tesla pretty recently, like even just at those levels, between the merch and the food stands and all that kind of stuff, it is, man, it even down to the smaller venues what they're charging at doors now for local shows. And there's definitely a thing going on. And unfortunately, I believe it's one of those things where they go, well, we got to charge this because now we're paying this. Well, okay. And I totally understand that. And I think, with COVID, we learned how companies and businesses they figured out how to charge more, right?
Right.
The bags when you go to the grocery store, the self-checkouts now are rampant. Like it's those kind of things that, that we're learning, because now things are so expensive. And the problem is people keep paying them. So they keep doing it. Because
they have no choice though, right? I mean, you're talking in real life, like with gas, like you're saying, with the groceries, with those bags, so on and so forth. That's a level of we have no choice.
That is correct. Even when you look at fees for tickets, like, coming back to the, to an artist level, it's amazing to me. And how, I'm going to be honest, when I was looking at tickets for Tesla, I decided to go to the Bethlehem show in both casinos. The Jersey show was so much more expensive than the Bethlehem show. Why? Probably because there's more fees, more taxes, more whatevers. Although I was talking to a friend of mine, and the tickets were on sale. There was no talk of Sebastian Bach, but at the Atlantic City show, they ended up adding Sebastian Bach. So if your tickets for Atlantic City were pretty expensive, then they add Sebastian Bach, you go, okay, like that's cool, because you get Tesla and Sebastian Bach for what you were only paying for to see Tesla. So that's kind of cool. But I chose the cheaper show, and I like the Bethlehem, because the show is at Bethlehem Casino. I like that venue a lot. I think it's really cool. The sound's great. The vibe's really cool. But everything's so expensive. Merch is so expensive. But like you said, and people, it's a night out for them, and it ends up being an expensive night. Why are things expensive? Because it's getting harder to tour, to make merch, for companies to make money, whether it's beer, whether it's food, whether the case it is. So everybody charges more, and people keep paying more. Same thing with local shows. I believe that local shows is so expensive to get in because the bars, the venues, they want to make sure that everything's covered because people aren't turning out. But maybe one of the other reasons is people ain't turning out because it is so expensive. You're paying a lot of money to go see a local show, plus drinks, plus food. It's a night out. Well, I just spent that to go see Tesla. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting place that we're in right now. Again, I get it. I get why venues are charging so much money to get in for a local show, because they're trying to cover prices, because local originals, let's start there. Local originals just aren't pulling in the numbers. But maybe they're not pulling in the numbers because it's so expensive. So it's a very weird situation we're in right now. And it's, you often say what's going to be the breaking point, but I don't know if we'll ever see a breaking point. I mean,
well, there has to, at some point there has to be. Things will shift. How they'll shift and how severe that'll be, you never know until that moment. Unless you really start seeing a buildup of, like, say, nobody coming out the clubs or venues or bars or whatever. Right. My concern, and I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I understand the business model. You need to cover what you need to cover. Otherwise, you can't have it. But how is that helping the scene? And it's not helping the artists or the bands, because people they just keep putting it on the bands, in the sense that ticket prices have gone up, even just for local shows. The ticket amounts that are expected have gone out the roof. Because again, if a band could pool that, they could just rent their own. I mean, the truth is, if you could sell 50 tickets for a show at someone else's venue, why not sell 50 tickets at a place you rent for the night, cover the nut, make some money, and then some? And you create more of a personalized experience. Because we used to do that in the 80s and early 90s. We used to call them beef and beers. Maybe 2 bands played. And you had something to eat. I don't understand why it becomes the artist's responsibility to pay for everything else, including the audience. That's what's happening. And I'm seeing that it's not only just the venues, it's the bookers. They're asking astronomical amounts to get onto bills. And it's nuts. Oh, it's not pay to play. Well, yeah, it is. Because if you know the scene, you know the bands aren't pulling those kind of numbers. So it is pay to play. And some of these guys are adding bands just to pocket themselves. Yep. I don't care what anybody says. That's the aspect of it. That's the shakedown that's happening. It happens. Anybody that says it doesn't, well, then you're kind of somewhere on Mars, in my opinion. But then I'm seeing other artists do it to artists. They figure, well, I'm going to get other artists to pay my way. And I've seen guys do that with labels. These artists will start a label just to fund their own band distribution or career. So they get other artists to pay into it. They create this label. They don't really do anything except for themselves. I'm seeing with other artists, they're doing additional promotion. It's pay all the way. And you know what? It's just benefiting them in the long run. I'm seeing them put together festivals. Listen, I'm not opposed to making money and coming up with ways, but it has to be economical. It has to really inflate the scene in a positive way. Otherwise, all it is, for a lot of us, it's a one-and-done deal. One-and-done deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And no one benefits from it. Not even the people that are trying to gouge, except some inflated ego, and at the end of the day, all they did was made money. If you look at the stats over time, didn't push their band anymore. Maybe they made more money so they could buy on to something else later and then have somebody else pay for it. Because I'm seeing a lot of that. Bands will buy on to something and then bring other bands on to help pay what they just paid.
Yes.
It's a trickle-down effect, but again, the artist is now responsible for paying for everything. Everything. The audience, their recordings, their merch, the tickets, the promotion, whatever. But I just find that, like, now the gouging has gotten to be crazy. And you're right. It's a byproduct or a continuation of what's happened since COVID. Since everybody else did it, why not? People's prices went up before things got crazy because they said, well, if they're doing it here, I can do it here, nickel and dime. And over the past 4 years, those prices have increased drastically, as much as 35% over that course of that time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Yeah. So I just wanted to see if maybe it wasn't just me, it's other people seeing it as well, because it's such a spike in the overall overhead for a small band that it's becoming harder and harder to work. It really is. So
yeah, I've also witnessed this too. Promoters that book these shows only do it because they want the credit. They're not doing it to help the scene. In other words, you get Joe Schmo promoter. He wants to bring in, I've seen this so many times, and they've all failed. You get Joe Smith promoter. He wants to bring a band in because he wants the credit.
Right.
So he brings in this smaller national act and then goes, I'm not going to pay for it. I'll ask these other bands for money because the bands just want to play with said small national. Whether, again, like you would said, is it pay to play? Is it selling tickets? It all ends up being the same thing anyway. So I'm booking the band, but the bands are paying the fee for the band that I booked. And at the end of the day, I get all the credit. The bands don't get the credit. Nobody goes, oh man, listen, thanks for all the bands for helping us put this show together. Right. That never happens. No. Like, it's always about, hey, Joe Smith, you booked said band. That's awesome. Thank you for having us.
I brought this band in, right? That kind of thing. I get what you're saying.
Right, Joe brought the band in, but who made the show successful? Not Joe Smith. The bands made the show successful. Right. Who gets all the credit? Joe does.
Right.
And I've seen that happen many times. And all the social media is, oh, I booked this band and this is my company and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, the bands are treated like crap. They got to get out of the way. They can't be here. They can't be there. There's all these restrictions. I see it all the time, man.
All the time.
We talked about it a lot this season. You're on a bill. The venue's not promoting you. The booker's not promoting you. They don't care. They just wanted somebody to cover that end. It's not like, oh, I got such and such band. I got such and such a band. You know, this is going to be one heck of a show. That's not how it works, man. And it's a shame. It's a shame. There's a gouging of it, and it's a misappropriation of promotion or, you know, of credit.
Yep.
Because you're right. So why you bring a band in? I mean, it's a big deal. But honestly, if you got the money, that band's coming. You got an open schedule, that band's going to book it. I don't care what anybody says. The thing that makes that night, it covers the night, is those bands that fill that time in. Like, seriously, where did it say that a headliner has to go on 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock? A headliner could be 8 o'clock, they play till 9:30, they're done, everybody's home. No, they're trying to max the night.
Yeah.
They're trying to maximize the night. But I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, and not to cut out the local artist, but I think in most cases, the venue would probably do much better. How many times do you go, I don't want to go see that band? Or you don't go to the opening acts?
Yep.
Even on a major circuit.
Yeah.
Come on, stop that. That's why it's so lightly attended, unless it's, like I said, like a Sebastian Bach or some other big name band. I mean, even in the 80s, the opening acts sometimes were a little less than. But as the 80s went on, those opening acts became bigger and bigger, and they're like, oh, man, they used to team up bands that really brought in the numbers. And so, you know, I mean, I remember when I seen Britney Fox, Kix, and Rat.
Yep.
That place was packed from the beginning because all three of those bands, one, Britney Fox was local, right? So the Spectrum was packed. Kix was unbelievable, and during that, you know, Blow My Fuse era. And Rat was just still soaring on top. I mean, come on. Does that happen today? Does that happen today? Sometimes you got, and I'm not opposed to this, but sometimes you have such an eclectic type of lineup that it throws the audience off. The audience is like, well, I don't really want to hear that. So again, I think artists are being cut out and then they're being gouged to pay for everything in the process.
That is a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
You are listening to The Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
All right, let's get into the topic of the show. And the topic of the show is the AI syndrome. Is it taking over? Where do we stand now? The AI syndrome, is it taking over? Where do we stand now? Just as a preface, we've talked about AI for the last couple of years. I think we did a show on it last season as well. We've talked about it throughout this season, bits and pieces as things are changing. So this is just a continuation to give us an update of where we are right now in the music scene, in our world, and how it's affecting things. Chris, what do you think, buddy? What's this AI syndrome doing?
Taking over the world, bro. It's getting worse. Couple of examples. One, I'm just going to take us out of the music field for a little bit. I follow a gentleman named Logan Paul. Logan Paul is a social media influencer. He is the brother of Jake Paul, the boxer, fighter, whatever. However you feel about the Pauls, it doesn't matter because that's not really the crux of the story. I just watched one of his video vlogs the other day. He is a WWE performer, so I kind of follow him even more now. So he put out this vlog the other day where he was contacted by his people that some young lady posted a picture. He's a big Pokemon guy. Posted a picture of her dressed as one of the, I think she was actually dressed like Pokemon, had something to do. She apparently, according to her, offered him like $10 million for this Pokemon card that he's trying to sell that he bought for $5 million. It's a whole thing.
Well,
moral of the story is his people contacted him and he's like, this is a fake picture. And TMZ ran the article, had all the girls' quotes. Even he said, how is this getting by? He said, we need to do better finding out what pictures are real. He said, kind of in a nutshell, I don't want to talk out of context. I don't remember his exact quote. He said something to the effect of, how does TMZ not know this is a fake picture in this day and age? Is pretty much what he said. He said, this picture is not real. I don't know who this girl is. We've never had a conversation. And that's bad, man. You had said earlier in the show, we're getting our news from social media. The problem with that is you never know what's real and what's fake. Now, I can sometimes tell what's real and what's fake. You can kind of tell if you really look into it, or if you really look at a video, you can kind of tell it's fake. Another perfect example of this whole AI thing. Last week, if you follow football, the Buffalo Bills may have had their playoff stolen for bad calls, whatever. Point of the story is the Buffalo Bills coach did his press conference. I saw the real press conference. I saw clips of it. There was going around on the internet of him screaming and hollering and cursing about the refs, about the NFL, and it was AI. And there were thousands of people commenting on this video. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you not realize this is fake? This guy's screaming and effing the league. He's not going to do that no matter what he feels. That is where we're at. On top of, now I'll bring it back to music. So I think we had talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, Bandcamp has pulled all the AI stuff. They're doing a better job of pulling all the AI stuff off their site. So it's just real independent creators selling real music. Spotify has claimed that they're going to do better. They're going to pull off all these AI accounts that are the same names that are of real artists. I think I had used Exodus in another example for another show that one time I'd opened up my Spotify and there was an Exodus brand new single and it wasn't Exodus, but they were using the name and then it got taken down, yada, yada. Well, guess what? You know what Spotify did as of the other day? They're raising their prices $1. What sense does that make when you're promoting AI? When you have, this fake music that is, listen, and we've said it on the show, which is unbelievable. It's so good. But you're raising $1 and you have all this AI fakes. You're having a problem with all this AI fake stuff. You're raising your funds by $1 or your subscriptions by $1, and then Bandcamp on the other side is pulling all their stuff that's not personally created from someone in their home studio, not someone that goes, hey, make me this kind of song. This is where we're at with this AI stuff. It's ridiculous. Again, going back to creating, I just saw an interview with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck because they're going around promoting this new movie they have on Netflix, and Ben Affleck went into this long spiel about how he feels about AI. So when you have guys like that of that caliber talking about it, although he said he's not worried about it, but he understands, it's a problem, man. It's a problem in our independent creating scene. It is a problem all over. And I don't think we're now, obviously, listen, I know there's way more important things in this world than AI. But I also believe that we need to be better about it, and we need to get a hold of it before this really gets bad. Because when you could do a video of the Buffalo Bills coach screaming and hollering, and you get thousands of people believing it, and Logan Paul, TMZ is running a picture with him and this person that never happened, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. So yeah, I think this AI thing it's getting out of hand.
I agree. With Ben Affleck, he wasn't concerned because AI is never going to be able to give that human essence to the writing.
That's
at
correct.
all. But again, it's easy to speak of that because whatever he would do in his career, he could basically get a green light, right? Even if he stays moderately successful, he's still going to get a green light. So I get that.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, like the music thing, it's crazy because it's so accessible to anybody, non-musicians included, of course. And that's kind of almost what it's geared towards, that it's taken away the appreciation of our ability as artists to create. Because now someone who's not an artist, not a musician, not a singer, not a guitar player, whatever, can create music. So it actually takes away almost the validity of it, the creative process of it, the overall essence of what music creation is, because now it can be done by anybody, anywhere, at any time, instantly. Because real music, though there is an instantaneous type of creation that happens or can happen, that's not necessarily the case. It's crafted. It's like building a table, right, from just a tree trunk, and you go through the process. Music involves that. This eliminated that process 100%. It eliminated time in, years of practice, honing. The blood, sweat, and tears of it is all gone. It is now immediate, and it's for everyone. That's cool, but at the same time, we talked about, I think it was last season maybe the season before, how music has become just a commodity that we buy and sell on the trade floor. Well, it's not even that anymore. It's something that it gets kicked around at a bus station because we can't get to it, in a sense. You're trying to reach for your hat, and as you keep going through it, somebody kicks it, and you're, okay, there it is. But that's exactly all it is now. Yeah. And it's disposable. This week, everybody's into that Sono app. And next week, they're into making cat faces on your pictures. Now, there's a positive to that. Does that mean that it becomes passé after a while? Well, what happens is once it reaches its peak, it's not popular anymore to the masses because they're on to something else. But the people that are really good at it will continue to do it. So it's never going to go away 100%. It'll just keep transforming into something else as more and more people get better at it. And the ones that actually make a splash with it will continue with it. The ones that don't, or just used it as, office fanfare, well, then they're on to something else because they've never been interested in being a artist or a musician. Hence why the uploads, say, during COVID and all on Spotify went out the roof. Now, a lot of artists were just sitting still, and they had all this opportunity and time to create music and put it out there. That's part of the percentage. But then, as we discussed before and read in articles, there were just people with, as you said, with a Casio keyboard, and they were creating My Dog Sings the Blues with Frank Sinatra and so on and so forth, right? And then they've never gotten it back again. Like, how many Spotify accounts, and I don't know the number, but I'm just curious, how many Spotify accounts haven't been touched since, since 2022 that were created?
Millions.
And then,
Millions.
Right. So could there be a bright side to this? I'm not sure. A lot of artists are still saying that, it's not going to put us out of business and all that. Well, I guess maybe depending on where you're at. Like, Metallica's not going to go out of business. And like we talked about at the beginning of the show, the older bands, as long as they're able to still do what they're doing, they're not going to go out of business. And even if they did disappear, their catalog will still outshine all of your independent and indie artists. Mm-hmm. So AI is not necessarily a factor for them, hence why Geezer Butler was using it. He's already got a catalog. He's made his money. Say this album does come out with an AI singer and it flops. It ain't going to ruin his career.
Hell no.
I mean, he's the truth of the matter is, look, he's at the tail end of his career anyway. Not that his career is falling off. It's just that, life is going to expire at some point. I'm not being negative, but he's already made it. His catalog is solidified.
Stacked, yeah.
Yeah, but you and I, it's just a different beast. Now, who's to say in 10 years, if I'm even doing this, that I wouldn't have used AI as a thing? I can't say that. You may be forced to do it and have no choice. I don't know. But what that's saying on the opposite side is how much AI is going to be used that there really isn't an artist existing. It's all fake. And this is what we're primarily listening to.
Yeah.
In Demolition Man, right, the radio was filled with television commercial jingles. That was so popular that regular music didn't even exist.
Right.
So who's to say that at some point regular music will just maybe be such a small percentage and AI music will be such a bigger percentage? We don't know. But we're seeing the rise right now. And it's definitely hit the everyday person. And they're using it just as another app. App. And with any luck, hopefully the app does its thing in 6 months and then disappears or just becomes not as popular because they've passed it on to something else. But like we talked about privately, there is this work towards creating a blockchain that verifies or validates what we're seeing, hearing online. That means you have to join or you have to have a membership to have that verification. It'll be yet another app or a series of apps or something so that it will verify what you're seeing as a video, say on CNN or what's prompted as CNN is actually real. And they're going to do that with the same thing with audio. But it's going to cost us. The buck passes back down to us so that we, the people, pay for everybody else's indiscretions.
Shocking.
It's shocking.
Shocking.
It's here. It's probably here to stay. It's probably not at its peak yet. I'm pretty sure it's not at its peak yet. We're still on the rise. But at some point, just like everything else, there will be a level of decline. It won't be as popular. It's up to us as artists to keep hammering with what we do. Listen, if you're going to use it as a tool, then use it just as that. It's a tool. Another tool, it's like a hammer or a screwdriver. You don't use a screwdriver for everything. Well, maybe in my neighborhood, a hammer and a screwdriver was pretty much everything that's all you need for a lot.
Nowadays, you don't.
Nowadays, you don't have to. But my point is if it's a tool to benefit what your creative process is, to make you better, fantastic. If it's a tool that you're using to create a falsehood of who you are and what you can do, that to me, I think is the sad part of it all. And that's going to happen. And it's already happening.
Yeah.
And in some regards, thankfully, I am getting at that age that sooner or later it won't bother me anymore because I won't be doing it anymore. Hey, let them do what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? What do you think, Bud? Anything else you want to add?
No, man. Nope. I said my piece.
Well, we'll see how the piece goes one piece at a time. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step into the Cosmickverse and never get yourself caught into AI. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmick Voice. If you have a question, a topic idea, or something you want us to address, just contact us through our Facebook page at The Cosmick Voice. You can listen to The Cosmick Voice at Spotify, Breaker, Apple, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and at thecosmickview.com. Check us out on Facebook at The Cosmick Voice.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmick Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmickvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmick Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.